Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Assalamu alaikum. This is Asad Yaqub and once again here I am on your demand. I'm going to make videos on academic Ielts reading, and in this video I'm going to solve complete test which is reading test from academic Ielts book number 14. If you have book number 14, grab your book and you're going to learn a lot. I'm going to give you some tips, and the tips that really work, not the hollow tips, right? These are the tips that really work, and I'm going to solve the test. I will apply those tips on the test and we are going to solve the test. If you haven't subscribed my channel yet, go ahead and subscribe and you'll find the reason of your subscription while watching this video. The question type which we are going to discuss, that is the most confusing question type in academic Ielts reading, and that is true, false, not given. In the last couple of weeks I have uploaded about 3-4 videos on true, false, not given, and in this video I'm going to target academic Ielts reading and I'm going to tell you about true, false, not given in academic Ielts reading. So guys, book number 14, Cambridge book number 14, academic book, and this is test number 2. Let's take a start. Alright guys, let's take a start now. True, false, not given. Now we're going to read the questions and I'm going to tell you how to read the questions. Question number 1, Henderson rarely visited the area around Press Estate when he was younger. Now over here, actually for true, false, not given, this is my new tip. There are two things. One is a decisive word or phrase, decisive word or decisive phrase, and the second thing is the clue word. Now over here they say Henderson rarely visited. This word rarely is actually a decisive word. If Henderson rarely visited the area, then it is true. If he visited the area frequently or quite often, then it is false and otherwise not given. And this word Press Estate, this is basically the word which you need to scan. So this is the clue and this is the decisive word. Decisive means the word that is going to decide. It can be a word, it can be a phrase as well. So Henderson rarely visited the area around Press Estate when he was younger. Okay, so you can convert it into like, if Henderson rarely visited the area around Press Estate when he was younger, then it is true. If he visited the area quite often, right, around Press Estate when he was younger, then it is false. And if they don't tell us the frequency, whether that was rare, that was often, then it is not given. And remember, whenever there is true, false, not given, the questions and passage, they are in the same order. Now here we are. Alexander Henderson, 1831 to 1930. Okay, born in Scotland, Henderson immigrated to Canada in 1855 and became a well-known landscape photographer. Now we understand. We are going to read a passage which is about a well-known landscape photographer. So let's just take a start from the beginning, and you have to keep in mind the first thing which you need to find, that is Press Estate. So Press Estate is the main thing. Let's start from here. Alexander Henderson, born in Scotland, and this chairman National Bank of Scotland, family, and this besides here. Now I need to read from here and I need to see whether he visited that place rarely or quite often. Besides its residence in Edinburgh, it owned Press Estate, 650 acres of farmland about 35 miles southeast of the city. The family often stayed at Press Castle, the large mansion on the northern edge of property. And Alexander means Alexander Henderson, and Alexander spent much of his childhood in the area. Now see, the main area was it owned Press Estate. That was the main area. In Press Estate, the family often stayed at Press Castle. They say it owned Press Estate, Scotland. Beside its residence in Edinburgh, it owned Press Estate, 650 acres of farmland about 35 miles southeast of the city. The family often stayed at Press Castle, the large mansion on the northern edge of the property, and Alexander spent much of his childhood. Now, much of his childhood in the area, playing on the beach near this and all that. Now, let's go back. Henderson rarely visited the area around Press Estate. Now, the area around Press Estate, that is Press Castle. Okay, when he was younger. They say rarely, when he was younger. Now, you can see it here, Press Estate. Then they say the family often, and Alexander spent much of his childhood and when he was younger, and much of his childhood in the area. The area means actually that Press Castle. So much of his childhood, and over here they say rarely visited area around Press Estate. This is actually a contradictory statement. The statement contradicts here. That is why for question number 1 the answer is false. Okay, yeah, this rarely and then around the area around Press Castle. So this area around Press Estate, that is Press Castle. Okay, number 2, Henderson pursued a business career because it was what his family wanted. See again, the decisive phrase or the decisive sentence is because it was what his family wanted, right? Now, Henderson pursued a business career. This is a word you need to scan about Henderson. So, if Henderson pursued a business career because it was what his family wanted, then it is true. If he pursued a business career because he wanted to do it or that was his own desire, then it is false. And if they don't tell us the reason, if reason is not mentioned, then it is not given. Now, as I told you, questions and answers, they are in the same order. So we need to move on. We read this, even after he went to school, this business career. I'm looking for the word business career. Press it, we can. He began 3-year apprenticeship to become an accountant, although he never liked the prospect. Yes, I found business career. Now let's see. Let's read this. Although he never liked the prospect of a business career, he stayed with it to please his family. Wow. To please his family. Read this again. Although he never liked the prospect of a business career, he stayed with it to please his family, and for that they are saying because it was what his family wanted. Henderson pursued a business career because it was what his family wanted, and over here they say to please business career. He never liked the prospect of a business career, he stayed with it. It means business career, referencing. He stayed with it to please his family. So for question number 2, it was what his family wanted. The answer is true. Okay, now let's go on. Question number 3. Henderson and Noteman were surprised. Yes. So these type of words are the decisive words. They decide whether the statement is true, false or not given. Henderson and Noteman were surprised by the results of their 1865 experiment. Now this is what you need to scan. This is the clue. So clue word and decisive word. So Henderson and Noteman means both of them. Now you need to find Noteman as well. Were surprised by the result of their 1865 experiment. Let's go on. Now they talk about Henderson over here, photography Montreal and all that, because there is no mention of anything like that. Okay, he became a personal friend of photographer William Noteman. Now over here, he became a personal friend and colleague of the Scottish Canadian photographer William Noteman. The two men made, yes, the two men. Now see, over here they say the two men, and over there they say Henderson and Noteman. So Henderson and Noteman, they are rephrased as the two men. Now we need to see if they were surprised by the result of their 1865 experiment. The two men made a photographic excursion to Niagara Falls in 1860 and they cooperated on experiments with magnesium flares as a source of artificial light in 1865. Alright, they belonged to the same societies and were among the founding members of the Art Association of Montreal. Henderson acted as chairman of the association's first meeting, which was held in Noteman's studio, but they did not say anything that when they did the experiment with magnesium flares as a source of artificial light, were they surprised or were they not surprised? Henderson and Noteman were surprised. Now there isn't anything that tells us whether they were surprised, or if they write the opposite thing, for example, they expected that. So expected that means they were not surprised, then it could be false. But there is no information about their emotion or about their feeling, whether they felt surprised or they were expecting that. There is no mention of that. That is why the answer is not given. Right? Okay, let's go on. Question number 4. There were many similarities. Okay. Now, many similarities. This is the decisive word. There were many similarities between Henderson's early landscapes and those of Noteman. Now, they say there were many similarities between. Now, if there were similarities, decisive word, decisive phrase, if there were many similarities between their work, right, then it is true. If there were few similarities or if there were no similarities, their work was different, then this is false. And if they don't tell anything whether there were similarities or their work was different, then it is not given. Now let's go back and we have to see where do they talk about their work and all that. We read until here. There is no mention. In spite of their friendship, their style of photography were quite different. Ta-da-ta-da. In spite of their friendship, their styles of photography were quite different. Quite different. And over here they say there were many similarities between Henderson's early landscape and those of Noteman. Now see, in spite of their friendship. Now there means Noteman and Henderson, right there. And then they said their style of work. Again, there is referencing. There means William Noteman and Alexander Henderson. So in spite of their friendship, their style of photography were quite different. And for style of photography, actually they are using the word landscape. Early landscape and those of Noteman. So in question they say many similarities, and in passage they say styles of photography were quite different. This is the contrary information. That is why for question number 4 the answer is false. Alright guys, now we go on with question number 5. The question says the studio, alright, they're talking about some studio. The studio that Henderson opened in 1866, this is the first part, was close to his home. Close to his home, decisive word, close. Now, if the studio that Henderson opened in 1866, if that studio was close to his home or near his home, then it is true. If the studio was away from his home, right, then it is false. And if they don't tell us the proximity of the studio, whether the studio was near or far, then it is going to be not given. Like Celine Dion said, near, far, wherever you are, I believe that the heart does go on. Okay, so that's what we are going to find now. And the clue word is the studio and 1866. Clue word, and this is the decisive word. Now let's go on. We need to find the word studio. 1866. I found 1865. Okay, we need to scan. No. Over here in 1866, yes, He gave up his business to open a photographic studio. Now we need to find out whether that studio was near or far. Advertising himself as a portrait and landscape photographer. From about 1870, he dropped portraiture to specialize in land. They don't tell us about the studio, whether that studio was close or that studio was far. They only say he gave up his business to open a photographic studio, advertising himself, but there is no mention about the proximity of the studio. That is why for question number 5, the right answer is not given. Alright guys, so far so good, huh? Are you enjoying? I am enjoying a lot, okay? Yes, this is fantastic for me. Let's go on. I always enjoy when I solve IELTS reading tests. So, number 6, Henderson gave up. Gave up. Henderson gave up portraiture so that the reason he could focus on taking photographs of scenery. Now see, over here, the clue word is actually Henderson, the sentence says Henderson gave up portraiture. Alright, he gave up portraiture. That's fine. There would be something about that. So that means reason. It is going to be a reason. So if Henderson gave up portraiture because or so that he could focus on taking photographs of scenery. If he did because of this reason, so that he could focus on taking photographs of scenery, then it is true. If he gave up portraiture for some other reason, not this reason, but he gave up, the reason is different, then it is false. And if they don't tell us the reason why he gave up portraiture, if the reason is not mentioned, then it is going to be not given. So now let's go on, and we just see Henderson gave up portraiture and why. Okay, we were here advertising as portrait landscape photographer. From about 1870, he dropped portraiture. Wow. Now see the synonyms, dropped and gave up. These are the synonyms. He dropped portraiture. Now let's see the reason. To specialize in landscape photography and other views. Now we need to match the reason. If the reason is same, then true. If the reason is different, then false. Otherwise not given. Once again we read, from about 1870, he dropped portraiture to specialize in landscape photography and other views. The question says Henderson gave up portraiture so that he could focus on taking photographs of scenery. Taking photographs of scenery and landscape photography, they are the same, and other views. Landscape photography or other views, this actually matches, or this is the paraphrasing of the photographs of scenery. That is why for question number 6, the right answer is true. Question number 6 is true. Is that clear? Good job. Let's go on. Question number 7. When Henderson began work for the Intercolonial Railway, a new word. So this is what you have to scan. When means the time Henderson began to work for the Intercolonial Railway, the Montreal to Halifax line had been finished. This is the decisive word. Now first you need to scan Intercolonial Railway, and once you reach there, you have to find out the Montreal to Halifax line had been finished. So if the line had been finished when Henderson began work for Intercolonial Railway, then it is true. If the line had been started or if the line had been in progress, then it is false. And if they don't tell us whether the line had been finished or started or in progress, then it is not given. Now let's just find out the word Intercolonial Railway. Alright, I need to go on from here. Intercolonial Railway, I'm scanning now by the way. Intercolonial Railway, no. Intercolonial, my eyes are moving across the text. Alright. Montreal. Yes, it's here, Intercolonial Railway, right? I found it. Now I need to read from here, and never read from there, just the sentence where it starts. That same year, while in the lower St. Lawrence River region, he took some photographs of the construction of the Intercolonial Railway. This undertaking led in 1875 to a commission from the railway to record the principal structure along the almost completed line connecting Montreal to Halifax. This one. Now, see that? I just go back once again. Let's refresh the question. When Henderson began work for the Intercolonial Railway, the Montreal to Halifax line had been finished. Montreal to Halifax line had been finished when Henderson began work. Now, what do they say? They say here, same year while in the lower St. Lawrence, photographs of construction of the this undertaking led in 1875 to a commission from the railway to record the principal. Now, this undertaking led to a commission from the railway to record the principal structure along the almost completed line connecting Montreal. Now, match almost completed with had been finished. Now, when they say had been finished, it means there was no work left, and when they say almost completed, it means it was not finished. So over here, the information actually, or the statement, contradicts with it. So that is why for question number 7, the answer is false. Why false? Over here they say line had been finished, and over there in the passage they say almost completed. Now, almost completed does not mean finished. Good going, huh? Rather great going. Last question. Henderson's last work, okay, as a photographer was with Canadian Pacific Railway. This is the clue word, right? And what you need to find out, Henderson's last work. Now, this is the decisive one. If Henderson's last work as a photographer, it's understood he was a photographer, he was not a carpenter. So, if Henderson's last work with Canadian Pacific Railway, if it was his last work, then it is true. If he did some other job after this, then it is false. And if they don't tell us that with Canadian Pacific Railway his work was last or second last or whatever, then it is not given. So let's go back and we scan Canadian Pacific Railway. Again I tell you, first we need to see what is the clue word, and then we need to see what is the decisive statement. In true, false, not given, this is Asad Yaqub's invention, that there are two things. One is clue word and second is your decisive statement. So let's go on and we find Canadian Ottawa, Quebec Commission, Canadian here. Canadian Pacific Railway. Now I need to see if his work was the last one, Henderson's last work as a photographer. Let's see. Okay, they say alright, I read it from here. In 1885, he went west along the Canadian Pacific Railway as far as Rogers Pass in British Columbia, where he took photographs of the mountains and the progress of construction. There is no mention. Oh yeah, again CPR. So we need to read on. CPR is Canadian Pacific Railway. In 1892, Henderson accepted a full-time position with the CPR as manager of photographic department. Alright, now we need to see whether that was his last job or not, which he was to set up and administer. His duties included spending 4 months in the field each year. That summer he made his second trip west, photographing extensively along the railway line as far as Victoria. He continued in this post until 1897, when he retired completely from photography. Now see, when he retired completely from photography and match it with Henderson's last work. Last work means retired completely. Now try to focus for last word they are using the word retired completely as a photographer with the Canadian Pacific Railway. This is very clear. He continued in this post until 1897 when he retired completely from photography. So Henderson's last work, or retired completely from photography, and here as a photographer, from photography and as a photographer, so was with the Canadian Pacific Railway. This information is exactly right. That's why the answer to question number 8 is true. See that, guys? I tried my level best to simplify true, false, not given as much as possible for you. Thank you very much. Welcome back. So guys, see that? True, false, not given has a certain mechanism. This question type has got a certain mechanism. If you follow the tips, if you read the questions carefully, and if you notice the words like rarely and all that, then it becomes easier for you. If you like this video, hit the like button and subscribe my channel. I teach IELTS online. If you want to join my online IELTS classes, my WhatsApp number is given. You can contact me for that. I run another channel, Asad Yaqub Vlogs. You can subscribe to that as well. And I have a Facebook page, Asad Yaqub IELTS. You can like my Facebook page as well. Asad Yaqub wishes you all the best with your IELTS reading. Take good care of yourselves. Allah Hafiz.